providers. Essentially, we help these customers to look at cargo flows, orchestrating the cargo flows from single nodes across networks to help them achieve faster transit time, better market outreach, and improved visibility. So this idea of a smooth and timely flow is very important in today's context, where we all know that the supply chain disruptions are becoming too prevalent. And this also explains why we are hosting today's webinar known as Supply Chain Resilience through the new Sea-Land Route to West China, supported by Enterprise Singapore. We have lined up a very comprehensive program comprising of very holistic perspectives across various teams on how this particular serial intermodal solutioning can help to diversify your supply chain management and increase resilience. Okay, but before we go into the program proper, I would like to invite Mr. Lau Chongming, Executive Director of Transport and Logistics from Enterprise Singapore, to give us some opening remarks. As we all know, Chongming is a very, very experienced industry veteran. He works with companies in various sectors to develop capabilities, innovation, transformation, and catalyzing local and international partnerships. So Chongming, feel free to share with us your thoughts on today's webinar.
Thanks, Karen. Let me first extend my appreciation to our partner, PSA International, for organizing today's event together with Enterprise Singapore. But more importantly, let me express my deepest appreciation to all the participants who took valuable time off their busy schedule to join us. I'm Chongming. I oversee the Transport and Logistics Division in Enterprise Singapore. A little bit about myself. I have in a way, spent quite a bit of my time in China. I stayed about 12 years in China, and I also been covering that market for many years, more than 12. So I must say that China is a very interesting market, and today's discussion on the CCI ILSTC for short, or the China-Singapore Chongqing Connectivity Initiative, the International Land Sea Trade Corridor project, is certainly going to be very, very useful, especially in today's context, like what Karen have just shared. Now, I mean, I share a little bit about Enterprise Singapore's mandate. I think we are here to grow Singapore enterprises, to entrench Singapore as a global trade and connectivity hub. And we work across our partners, whether is it the exporters, the shippers, the manufacturers, and the logistics companies, the supply chain players. At the same time, we are going to grow more trade out of Singapore, whether we are looking at offshore trade, re-export trade, and transshipment trade. And we want to do this, especially in light of the recent supply chain disruptions. We think, together with our partners and the ecosystem players, that Singapore can play a part in helping the global supply chain to contribute to global supply chain resilience. And today's topic on the ILSTC, which is a growing trade corridor, is going to be very relevant for shippers, exporters, and manufacturers, especially to consider the next steps to further enhance their own supply chain resilience. Like Karen said, today's speakers are very established, very experienced, and I really hope to see more engagement, interaction between the speakers and our participants. So to that end, I would like to thank my colleague Cheng Boon, our friends at PSA, Karen, Ting Fei, and Aloysius, who will be very openly and generously sharing about how they see the ILSTC, what are the new opportunities and developments happening in West China, and this new trade corridor, ILSTC, what can it actually bring value and benefits to shippers and companies? Now, supply chain management and orchestration is now extremely critical, important for all of us. I mean, not just due to the COVID pandemic, but also because of recent global events and supply chain issues like port congestions and so on and so on. And many companies now are opting for just in case rather than the pure just in time in the past. And we are still facing relatively higher air freight and sea freight costs versus pre-COVID times. And capacities, as we understand from the industry players, are still pretty tight. So there is a pressing need for all of us to develop very robust supply chain resilience. And one of these ways is to look at diversification, not just diversification of sources, but more importantly, diversification in routings, supply chains, and to look at new emerging trade corridors like the ILSTC, which can offer multimodal connectivity to enhance supply chain resilience. And when we look at supply chain resilience, let's not forget about supply chain efficiency as well. And through ILSTC and through digital platforms, which you will hear later, like Calista, and through one-stop solution providers like PSA Cargo Solution, we will all be able to learn how we can leverage on different resources, platforms, and assets, and the more importantly, digital connectivity, to see how we can optimize our supply chain more efficiently and effectively across different nodes, ports, warehouses, trucking, railways, and so on. So I think today's session is going to be very, very interesting. We are all going to hear a lot. And I would really, once again, like to thank our partner, PSA International, for organizing this event to share with the industry on potential new developments and, more importantly, new consideration and new solutions to help our companies to strengthen their supply chain resilience and efficiency. So to that end, I wish all participants to have a very fruitful and interesting session today. And I hope to hear more from the participant on your needs and your requests and your questions. We welcome all of them. Thank you very much. Over back to you, Karen.
Thank you, Chongming. Personally, I always enjoy listening to Chongming speak because he always has a lot of passion and enthusiasm for really growing Singapore as a global trade economy. And I think what particularly struck me personally from his opening remarks are the two keywords, diversification and resilience, because that's also the two key themes that we have surrounding our intermodal routing or solutioning that we're going to share with you today. Okay, so for the first presentation, I'm personally very excited to hear from Mr. Yap Cheng Boon, Deputy Director of China Division. Of course, before we dive into any solutioning proper, how we orchestrate the logistics, we first need to hear about the opportunities that we can have in terms of the commercial landscape in West China, and that's where Cheng Boon is going to bring us through. Now, a short intro of Cheng Boon. He has very, very deep experience driving business outcomes across sustainability-related sectors, including water, renewable energy, and waste management in his previous roles. And in his most current role, facilitating this G2G, government-to-government project on Chongqing Connectivity Initiative, he leads a team to help Singapore enterprises secure business deals in Chongqing and the greater West China region. So I'm sure we'll benefit a lot from his insights. Over to you, Cheng Boon.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you. And hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cheng Boon from Enterprise Singapore. Thank you for joining us in today's webinar. Now, Enterprise Singapore is an economic agency under Singapore's Ministry of Trade and Industry. Our responsibility includes helping Singapore businesses to explore opportunities overseas and facilitating trade and connectivity through Singapore. In today's session, we will take a closer look at business opportunities in West China and how we might be able to enhance trade connectivity between Singapore and China. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here are the main sections of my presentation today. First, I will give an overview of West China. Then, I will provide some views on the current market trends and opportunities. I will then end off by showing some potential ways to enter West China. First, the overview of West China. The western part of China is made up of 12 provinces you see on this slide. Enterprise Singapore has 3 offices in this region, namely Chengdu, Chongqing, and Xi'an. West China is a new growth engine of China's economy with close to 380 million people, which is about 27% of China's population, and it is still growing. It is a geographically significant region that accounts for more than 70% of China's land areas, which could translate to vast economic opportunities. In fact, in 2021, about 1/5 of China's GDP were from the Western region. It is also worthy to note that out of the top 20 fastest growing provinces in China, 9 were from the Western China region. As a centrally planned economy, policies from Central are critical in guiding the development of the region. The first major policy that focused on the Western region was introduced in the year 2000, and it is known as the Go West strategy. Now, besides the Go West strategy, there were also 2 new policies announced in recent years to accelerate the development of the Western China region. Now, notably in 2017, the new International Land-Sea Trade Corridor. Now, this is under the ambit of the third government-to-government project between Singapore and China. The multimodal corridor links Southeast Asia to West China through Singapore and Chongqing as key nodes. Now, this promotes further opening up of the inland areas and help West China to integrate into the global economy. And in 2020, the Chengdu Chongqing Economic Circle. This integrates 2 of the most economically active cities in West China, namely Chengdu and Chongqing, into a mega city cluster, focusing on areas such as economic reform, technology, innovation, and infrastructure development. Now, within West China, Chongqing, Chengdu, and Xi'an are key hubs for manufacturing and technology. Chengdu is the capital of Sichuan province and the economic powerhouse of the Western region. It is regarded as the key innovation and entrepreneur hub of West China. Xi'an is the capital of Shanxi province. It is known for its cultural, historical, and geographical significance, such as the Terracotta Army Museum in Xi'an. It also has a strong tourism sector and continues to grow with the government's push for smart city developments. Also, it has strong military industry, such as aviation and aerospace. Last but not least, Chongqing. Now, Chongqing is the youngest municipality in China, but has an important political and economic status. In 2020, Chongqing was ranked number 5 in China after Shanghai, Beijing, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou in terms of GDP. Automobile and electronics manufacturing account for more than 40% of the industrial output. And like most Chinese cities, big data and digital economy are the biggest trends over there right now. Now, as mentioned, here are the key industries in Chongqing and a quick snapshot of the notable global companies that are based there across software information services, automobile, and electronics manufacturing. Now, let's move on to Sichuan. Now, Sichuan's key industries include agriculture, transport and logistics, and tourism. Sichuan is a huge producer of agricultural products, including fruits, vegetables, pork, etc. Sichuan's largest company is known as New Hope, which is an agriculture company which joined the list of Fortune 500 in 2021. As a huge producer of agriculture products, Sichuan also emphasizes on the R&D of agriculture. In terms of transport and logistics, Chengdu is the busiest city in Sichuan and is designated and well-positioned to be the air hub of West China. In 2021, Shuangliu Airport was the second busiest airport in China after Guangzhou and handled 40 million passengers, even despite the COVID travel restrictions. Besides airports, Tianfu International Airport was also opened in June 2021. And this made Sichuan, Chengdu, the only other city to have 2 international airports other than Beijing and Shanghai. Therefore, once again, emphasizing its importance as a transport and logistics hub. Besides airport, Sichuan also has robust river and rail transportations. In addition, tourism is also a significant industry for Sichuan with numerous natural heritages. Now, moving on to Shanxi, here are the key industries in Shanxi and a quick snapshot of the notable global companies that are based there across information technology, high-tech manufacturing, and agriculture. I will now move on to market trends and opportunities. Now, during China's National People's Congress in 2020, the key message was to stabilize its economy and improve people's living standards post-COVID. There are 6 key positions to achieve these goals. Number 1, improve the healthcare system. 2, encourage foreign direct investment by opening up more sectors of the economy and further cutting the negative list for foreign investors. 3, promote online economy to boost domestic consumption. 4, develop new infrastructure in AI, 5G, and IoT. 5, push new urbanization by increasing urbanization rates from around 60% in 2020 to 65% by 2025. 6, to promote sustainable and green development. Today, I shall dive deeper into 4 to 6 and share some trends which we are seeing in the Western cities. Number 1, digitalization of industry remains a key strategy in China's industrial transformation. This does not only involve developing the digital industry per se, but also transforming traditional industries through digital technologies. Now, to this end, investments in infrastructure such as AI, 5G, and IoT are very critical. Chengdu, Chongqing, and Xi'an are all seeing increased activities on this front. For example, the Chengdu government promotes 5G applications for smart city solutions, and dedicated zones have been marked out for pilot projects, such as the Singapore Sichuan High-Tech Innovation Park. Another example is Chongqing. Now, given its reliance on automobile and electronics manufacturing, the municipality has the ambition to develop an industrial big data ecosystem through 5G and big data center development to upgrade its industrial sectors. Now, similarly, Xi'an also has focused on 5G applications in deep tech. Number 2, while rapidly urbanizing West China also prioritizes green economy and sustainability. For example, new zones or demonstration areas in Chengdu, Chongqing, and Xi'an are to showcase green and sustainable development along with other sectoral themes such as manufacturing, technology and innovation, and tourism. Number 3, enhancing connectivity. Now, West China's development is not just about collaboration and integration within West China, but also connectivity to the rest of the world, such as Southeast Asia. This is a strong driving force for the inception of our third government-to-government project, China-Singapore Chongqing Demonstrative Initiative on Strategic Connectivity, or the CCI. Now, this initiative links Western China to Southeast Asia, 2 of the fastest growing regions in the world, through Chongqing and Singapore as keynotes. It also forms an integral part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. There are 4 key themes under the CCI, namely financial services, aviation, transport logistics, and info communication technology. Now, the showcase project of this initiative is the CCI ILSTC, which Chongming talked about a lot just now. Now, what is this CCI ILSTC, or the New International Land Sea Trade Corridor? This is basically a multimodal sea-rail trade corridor that connects Singapore to Guangxi by sea, and then Guangxi to West China by rail. It provides global shippers with direct access to Western China at one-third of the traditional routes, one-third of the time of the traditional routes, such as through the Yangtze River. So it proves its usefulness as an alternative connectivity route to China, especially during COVID, where a lot of the major ports are experiencing heavy congestions. In fact, our shippers who have used this route shared a very good feedback that the CCI ILSTC really supports their business continuity plan. Our speaker from PSA will share more about the mechanics of the route and how it can help you to build your supply chain resilience. Moving on, I'll talk about some potential ways to enter West China with Enterprise Singapore. Now, at the government level, Singapore has various platforms to deepen collaboration with leaders and businesses in West China. Singapore companies can leverage these platforms that you see over on this slide to engage business partners in West China. West China is also not unfamiliar to Singapore companies. In fact, as you can see on this slide, many of our companies have established presence in West China, spanning various sectors and industries. Now, of course, they can potentially be a business partner to collaborate and bring your solutions to market. Enterprise Singapore will be happy to make introductions. Now, Enterprise Singapore's West China offices also actively engages various partners to be landing pads or solutions and service providers to help our new entrants. These include various government agencies, trade associations, institutes of higher learning, incubators, industrial partners, professional services providers, etc. So I've spoken a lot today. And with that, I have come to the end of my sharing. Especially on the previous few slides, those are ways whereby Enterprise Singapore can help you to enter the West China market. So I hope you have found my sharing today very helpful. And if any questions, any more questions that you'd like to know on what I've spoken about today, please reach out to myself or my colleagues listed on this page. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chengdu. Again, very inspiring sharing. Personally, for me, the key takeaways is really that Sichuan, Chengdu, Shanxi, Xi'an, and Chongqing are really the growing economic powerhouses that we are seeing in West China today. He mentioned that the opportunities are very varied, from automobile, agriculture, transport and logistics sectors to tourism, high-tech manufacturing. So for many of those who are listening in, there's really the opportunity to connect to new customers overseas, whether with the provision of raw materials or even finished goods. Particularly in Chongqing, Chengdu also mentioned that it's actually number 5 in terms of GDP across Chinese cities. And that's where our next presentation will focus on in terms of the ILSTC solutioning, where we will start off with northbound flows into Chongqing as a base. But of course, if you were to venture more westwards towards Western China, the solutioning is also available. With me doing this sharing, I will have Ms. Kwek Jingfei. Jingfei is with me in the Cargo Solutions team in PSA Southeast Asia, Deputy Manager. She's going to present strengthening supply chain resilience and efficiencies through multimodal solutions. And directly after that, my other colleague, Mr. Aloysius Kim, will come in to share more specifically about logistics network in China that PSA has built up. Because you may just not be looking at the just pure Singapore outbound intermodal logistics. You may also want to know more about how we can orchestrate your cargo flows logistics in China. Aloysius will be able to share more on that. Jingfei comes with 6 years of experience in the transportation sector. Aloysius is very, very experienced in terms of running the operations in PSA Singapore and also having worked in some of our Southeast Asian nodes. Okay, so with that, before I hand over, I do see questions that are already coming in the Q&A chat. Feel free to keep them coming. And there's a question that also talks about potential opportunities to connect to West China versus Southeast Asia via cross-transportation border. I think in Jingfei's sharing, we may be able to glean more insights, but later on during the Q&A session, we'll try to see whether we can also deepen the sharing as well. Okay, over to you.
Thank you, Karen. Is it clear? Okay. So hello and good afternoon to everyone. I'm Jingfei from Cargo Solutions team in PSA Southeast Asia. Thank you to all for setting aside the time to attend the webinar today. We are very happy to have you here with us. Now, many people know PSA to be a global port operator with our businesses focused on seaports. However, in the more recent years, we also see ourselves as a global supply chain orchestrator with the responsibility of connecting trade flows from one node to another across PSA's networks of seaports and inland terminals, which includes dry ports and rail terminals. We believe that the ability to connect is especially important in the current climate that's fraught with supply chain disruptions. And so today, we would like to share humbly on our thoughts on how PSA is prepared to work with industry players to strengthen supply chain resilience and efficiencies, particularly through multimodal solutions. So, as we all know, we are part of a global pandemic that stretched over the last 2 years, and this has drastically changed how we work and the way we live, basically. So the pandemic has fueled a confluence of demand and supply factors that have crippling effects to the global supply chain. So on the demand side, we see supply shortages such as semiconductors, as supply chains scramble really hard to keep up with the demand. On the supply side, the trade imbalance between the East and West has resulted in equipment shortages when containers are stuck in congested ports fraught with manpower shortages when their resources are affected by COVID. So this is coupled with the increased vessel throughput as well as increasing schedule delays, resulting in a snowballing effect on downstream ports. So for example, if you were to make a reservation at a restaurant, but had to keep delaying your reservation or even to turn up late without notice. So of course, if the restaurant is available to serve you at that time, it definitely will try its best. However, if it's full at that time, the customer will have to wait to enter. So without sufficient equipment available or sufficient capacity to clear the equipment that's required to ship supplies, raw materials cannot reach their key markets in time. So with the economics of supply and demand at play, this led to the unfortunate situation of skyrocketing freight rates that we are currently experiencing in the current supply chain. So as a matter of illustration, to really bring across the points that were shared earlier, if we were to look at the charts at the bottom right of the slide, you'll see that the global schedule reliability is hovering around the 30% mark. So this is far below how it used to be back in 2019. So this is equivalent to saying only 3 to 4 vessels out of 10 are arriving as per schedule. So the rightmost chart illustrates the average global delays for late vessel arrivals across the past year. So the average delay days stretch about from 7 to 8 days. So this is also meaning for vessels that are scheduled to arrive on Monday may only arrive on the following Monday. So this can have really detrimental impacts on the shippers as well as their end customers, the consignees. So as disruptions continue, this further emphasizes the need to enhance supply chain resilience. So from the traditional just-in-time model, which is longer sufficient, a more intelligent, data-driven, just-in-case model, which is enhanced with visibility, is needed. So supply chain disruptions have continued to place tensions on transshipment hubs. So with Singapore being the world's largest transshipment hub, we understand the criticality of our role in connecting the different supply chains. So PSA has strived to maintain our service levels to our customers amidst the supply chain disruptions. So some examples of what we did was to ramp up our physical capacity by reactivating the city terminals and accelerating the Tuas port development. This enabled us to expedite our operations through the increased availability of port infrastructure and equipment. We have also put in place strict COVID measures to ensure that our workforce is well protected through robust health and safety management. This ensures that we continue to have sufficient workforce to service your shipments on the vessels. Ensuring the business continuity for the carriers was not enough in our business vision because we also see the cargo owners and logistics service providers as critical stakeholders in the supply chain. As a group vision, 4 to 5 years ago, we formed Cargo Solutions with business representation in all our operating regions. We focus on providing supply chain solutions for our customers in key industry verticals such as energy and chemicals, cold chain, advanced manufacturing, and e-commerce. This is not to say that we only serve this cargo of these 4 verticals. We want to assure you that we also assist and support shippers of various other industries. For our Cargo Solutions team, we can leverage our port expertise to help our customers achieve closer outreach and faster transit time to their end markets. This translates into agility to react to swift changes in market demand, and also to help them manage their inventory much more efficiently. To enable our customers to have greater control over their supply chain, we recognize that resilience and visibility is key. So how do we do this? To help our customers, we can provide intelligent route advisory services to advise customers on optimal service routing via certain trade lanes, with end-to-end visibility through clear and timely milestones. On top of that, we also have other value-added services, such as priority discharge. So for priority discharge is one of the popular solutioning that has been gaining interest among shippers. So for priority discharge, PSA can help to expedite the urgent discharge of specified containers for shippers, which are required to prevent production stoppage. So through the stringing up of cargo flows from upstream to downstream, PSA's mission is to better enable shippers to move their cargo in a more streamlined and optimized manner. In the past, we know that we largely focus on port-to-port operations, but in fact, we have also assisted shippers with warehouse-to-warehouse operations as well. We envision co-creating value and solution with our customers to extend our solutions from port-to-port to door-to-door or warehouse-to-warehouse. So some of you may not be as familiar with us, so do allow me to share a bit on our background. So PSA has a global footprint comprising of about 60 sea and inland terminals. Hence, we are not only a seaport operator, we also have expanded into establishing inland capabilities, whether your cargo is from Europe, Americas, or Asia. We do operate terminals there, and your cargo may have passed through one of our terminals. So in 2021, for our global container throughput, we've handled more than 91 million TEUs, which is about 1/7 of the world's total container throughput. As shared earlier, our flagship terminal in Singapore is also the world's largest transshipment hub, and we manage about 1/10 of the total container throughput. So if we were to look at the icons highlighted in yellow on the screen, PSA has inland and rail presence in both Canada and China. So putting the focus on China, we have a long-standing history over there, having expanded into, having started our overseas venture in Dalian 20 years ago. So starting out from coastal port developments, we have expanded into establishing extensive inland and rail presence. So from coastal cities to inland rail stations, this orchestration can be done seamlessly via one single point of contact via PSA by linking up the nodes of supply chain web together seamlessly with our vast global footprint. So our global footprint has interested some shippers causing them to try to match their production, entry and exit heat maps to our global footprint to try and see what kind of synergies they can leverage out of the common areas. So they recognize that global supply chain disruptions are here to stay and nothing is predictable. So they're interested to see what other alternatives that they can explore. So during our engagements with them, we'll try to include intermodal solutions in our options to them. So one of the solutions which we'd like to share today, which has been gaining interest among shippers, will be the government-to-government project between Singapore and China, the International Land Sea Trade Corridor, ILSTC. We have invested in the China Railway Network, the China United International Rail Container Company, in short QRIC, specifically for 13 inland railway container terminals to complement our coastal presence, which Qingzhou is one of them. With this, PSA can enhance multimodal logistic connectivity between West China, Southeast Asia, and the rest of the world via Singapore and Qingzhou nodes. If we look at northbound flow, for example, from Southeast Asia to Singapore onwards to Qingzhou, PSA can provide first-mile logistics and procure the true freight on behalf of shippers, and also oversee the connection via trucks to the Qingzhou rail station and onward destinations such as Chongqing. We have local offices set up in regions such as Indonesia, Vietnam, and Thailand to assist shippers with cargoes originating out of these regions. With our presence in China, PSA can also assist with last-mile logistics requirement for an end-to-end orchestration. Given the disruptions that are ongoing at the main China ports, this has served many customers by reducing the transit time by 1/3 as compared to the traditional routing, with ILSTC having seamless connectivity from sea to rail. So from what I shared about the northbound flow, similarly, the southbound is entirely possible. So perhaps some of you may be wondering, how does ILSTC work? Do all my cargo pass through Singapore? So it does make sense for your cargo to transship via Singapore if you want to use ILSTC, because as the world's busiest transshipment hub, Singapore is at the nexus of major shipping routes with extensive connectivity via Singapore. And we have several weekly sailings to many key markets globally. And we can serve as a connecting point for your cargo getting in and out via ILSTC. So if you were to look at the map on the left, you will see that the numbers depicted in the bracket denotes the weekly services from Singapore to these destinations. You can also see on the slide that most of the carriers whom you may be familiar with are already using Singapore as a hub. And we also have built up a dense common feeder network to support the short sea needs to send cargo to more inaccessible regions and vice versa. So shippers can leverage on Singapore's strategic location and extensive connectivity to build a regional distribution center in Singapore and dispatch them to end markets nearby to reduce lead time. So not just for local cargo, also transshipment cargo for shippers who have cargo originating out of other ports of origin. You can also leverage Singapore's connectivity to connect to your onward destinations. So putting the focus back on ILSTC, for Singapore outbound to Qingzhou, there are 4 regular feeder services flying between Singapore and Qingzhou. The vessels are operated by the 3 shipping lines, PIL, COSCO, and MSC. So there are likely chances that you may not be using these 3 carriers, but not to worry. Your other carriers can also load on these vessels as well to have wider carrier options. We have earlier mentioned that cargo flowing through via transshipment or for local export out of Singapore can make use of ILSTC solutioning. So which industries may this be relevant for? So essentially, the time-sensitive cargo or cargoes where you need to have greater visibility of. We also want to share that we do see an increasing customer base of chemical players based in Singapore who have taken an interest in ILSTC. So this is where it gets interesting because PSA has a barging terminal on Singapore's Jurong Island, and it plays a pivotal role in supporting Singapore's vision as a chemical hub. The interesting solution is that we can sync up the JIT barging solution with ILSTC. How it works is that when you get in JIT, PSA will run the barging to connect to mainland terminals, help you do the freight management out of Singapore as well. We can also combine it with other services such as first mile logistics of trucking or putting your cargo into temporary non-carrier boxes and staging in PSA premises and also do transloading. So the beauty of this sync-up solution is that it offers timely visibility of vessels out of Singapore. So with PSA providing this one-stop solution, that is also more sustainable. You'll provide the shippers with an ease of mind. So for this solutioning, we are open to working directly with the beneficial cargo owners and as well as the LSPs who are interested to work together to see how we can work together to streamline the supply chain operations for our customers. Studies have also shown that for barging services, carbon emissions for barging, it reduces the carbon emission by 37% vis-a-vis full leg trucking. So focusing on ILSTC, rail also reduces up to 75% of greenhouse gas emissions. Hence, integrating JIT barging operations with ILSTC will help to integrate green logistics into the supply chain for the Jurong Island players for shipment out of Singapore to West China. With the multiple PSA nodes such as PSA Singapore, Jurong Island, Beibu Gulf Container Terminal, and Curate coming together with seamless, streamlined communication, this orchestration will be seamless for you. We understand all the above solutions will make sense from a seamless physical orchestration kind of angle, but in today's age and era, we need to look at digitalization to make the solution sustainable in the long run. So what you can see from this slide is actually Callista, which is an open and neutral global supply chain platform. Callista is jointly organized, they're designed by PSA and our partner, the Global E-Trade Services GETS. So it aims to help shippers orchestrate their cargo from source to end destination, spanning across the physical, informational, and financing spheres. So what can you do via Callista? Actually, Callista brings together different stakeholders in the supply chain community. So ranging from freight booking to end-to-end shipment milestones to compliance and financing requirements, these are all possible. So without the need for additional efforts and coordination to piece together information from multiple sites, Callista provides control tower functionalities, which is also applied to the ILSTC solutioning. Of course, this solutioning can be applied for other trade lanes as well, but focusing on ILSTC, we have used Callista for functions such as freight booking, submission and exchange of freight documents, and also to provide our shippers with timely end-to-end milestones. By consolidating all these functions into one single platform, Callista strives to serve as the one single source of truth for our customers. So we have largely talked about PSA as a port group, as a supply chain orchestrator, and have given a brief sharing on what we can do for the ILSTC solutioning. My colleague Aloysius will next share more on PSA's logistic network, local partners and solutioning from Qingzhou to West China. Thanks, Aloysius, handing over the time to you.
Thanks, Jingfei. Yep. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Aloysius from PSA. Earlier, you heard my colleagues share on their multimodal cargo solutions and extended services offerings provided by PSA along the ILSTC in Singapore. I will now share on PSA's service offerings along the ILSTC from Qingzhou to Western China. Please allow me to start by sharing with you PSA's service coverage and what we do across China. Next, please. Yeah, PSA started our first investment in Dalian back in 1996, and over the next 20 years, we had since extended our footprint to 10 coastal terminals in China. In the early 2010s, we took a hard look at our portfolio, and we were cognizant that our supply chain portfolio should go beyond just the coastal ports, and it was important for PSA to work towards connecting these coastal ports with the larger hinterland in China. We then embarked on our cargo solutions journey, beginning with our investments in 13 rail terminals and extended our service offerings along the supply chain, from building first and last mile to warehousing and customs clearance capabilities. To provide our customers a seamless experience along the entire supply chain, I'll be sharing more about how our services extend from origin to destination, beyond arriving at just conventional coastal ports. Over the years, we leveraged on our extensive network and have since developed capabilities to provide end-to-end supply chain services for our customers. These services extend from order management to the actual physical and documentation flow of the cargo, to cargo management at the destination and ground fulfillment services. Let's now take a look at our rail handling capabilities in China. In 2016, PSA invested in China's largest inland rail container terminal operator, the China United International Rail Container Company Limited, or CUIRC. CUIRC's network of inland railway container terminals are strategically located at regional economic centers across the country, forming a strong core of intermodal transport network and providing first-in-class service to their customers. Today, CUIRC is handling close to 60% of the China Rail Express volumes and have since grown from strength to strength. In the warehousing space, we are located in Guangzhou, Fuzhou, Qingzhou, and Chongqing, totaling more than 100,000 square meters of warehousing area, providing both bonded, non-bonded facilities, as well as value-added services for our customers. Coming back to our services along the ILSTC, a trade and logistics corridor with Singapore and Chongqing, serving as two important nodes, playing a key role in facilitating international trade between Western China and Southeast Asia through rail, sea, or intermodal freight transport connectivity. As a critical cargo transportation corridor that promotes connectivity beyond coastal ports, this corridor links Western China to the world, which involves the handling of your containers from Qingzhou port in Guangxi, loading the container onto rail for transport to Chongqing, with subsequent connectivity to other cities in Western China, as well as to the Europe via the China Railway Express, which forms an alternative to ASEAN-EU transportation. The ILSTC presents several major benefits, such as, firstly, time and cost savings, as compared to traditional transportation routes where it is faster than ocean shipping and cheaper than air freight. Secondly, seamless connectivity and end-to-end secured supply chain visibility for your cargo. And last but not least, with the increased emphasis on sustainable logistics, sea rail transport via the ILSTC does offer a lower carbon footprint. In 2021, close to 5,000 freight trains were operated along the ILSTC, and we also saw a year-on-year increase of 13% in container volumes handled. Today, the ILSTC is connected to 14 provinces, 47 cities, and 91 train stations throughout China. This further illustrates the growing network effect of the CUIRC. I will now be sharing more on the container flow process upon its arrival into China and our services along the ILSTC. Let's now switch our attention over to the nodes along the ILSTC, where we as PSA serve alongside our customers, starting from Qingzhou port in Guangxi. In 2015, PSA invested in Qingzhou port, which was our first foray into China's southwest region, which has become a fast-growing economic region in China today. Qingzhou port had since fulfilled its purpose as an international corridor linking ASEAN and China, and serves as a strategic location to support the growth in this region. And over the past 6 to 7 years, we work closely with the government to co-create a supply chain ecosystem that serves the needs of importers and exporters in Guangxi and beyond, providing best-in-class operations in container handling, efficient and reliable railroad intermodal connectivity for you. Let's take a closer look at our port in Qingzhou. This slide presents the key. Next, please. Yeah, okay. Let's take a closer look at our port in Qingzhou. It basically presents the key specifications of our existing terminal in Qingzhou, as well as the further expansion plans. Today, Beipu Gulf PSA International Container Terminal, or BPCT, is the only international container handling terminal in the area, with Fangchenggang and Beihai handling mainly bulk cargo. The terminal handled 4.6 million TEUs in 2021 and has 18 weekly services providing excellent connectivity throughout Asia, in particular Southeast Asia. Upon the container arriving at Qingzhou Port, the container will be handled and transported to our CUIRC Qingzhou Rail Container Terminal, which is located adjacent to the port, for onward rail transport to Chongqing. At the rail terminal, we have daily rail services in place to further enhance connectivity to cities in West China. At the end of your journey upon entering China via Qingzhou Port, your container would have taken about 2 to 3 days to arrive by rail into Chongqing. And under the CCI framework, PSA invested and set up the Sino-Singapore Chongqing DC Multimodal Logistics JV, or SSCDC in short, in 2017, which is the third government-to-government project between Singapore and China. SSCDC is located in Chongqing Liangjiangniu area, where it sits on a piece of 35-hectare land in close proximity to Chongqing's key transport nodes, which are Guoyuan River Port and Yuzhui Railway Terminal, which demonstrates its potential for multimodal handling capabilities. This is an overview of SSCDC facility in yellow, located along the upper reaches of the Yangtze River, where multimodal options converge in the form of rail, water, and land transport. To our left, in green, we see the future Yuzhui cargo rail terminal that is connected to China's nationwide rail network and has a direct link to SSCDC's facility. Up in the north, in white, we have the Guoyuan Port, which is the main river port in Chongqing with direct access to coastal ports like Shanghai. And to the right, we have the ABB plant, which produces transformers for export to ASEAN and Oceania. This is where CDC can potentially extend our service offerings to provide end-to-end services to our customers. These are some photos of our current progress of construction, which started in end 2020. Over 50,000 square meters of container yard and 40,000 square meters of warehouse was completed in January this year. And our office building is expected to complete by April this year. Once completed, the office building will be home to our stakeholders and service providers to create and strengthen the area's ecosystem of supply chain related services for you. At SSCDC, we provide a full suite of services ranging from bonded and non-bonded warehouse services, container yard services, international freight forwarding, and trade procurement services, and is certainly well poised to serve you as the key consolidation hub for both inbound and outbound cargo in Southwest China for multimodal handling capabilities. So please feel free to reach out to us to understand our service offerings further and allow us to come alongside you to co-create your supply chain solutions. Moving on, COVID-19 has demonstrated the importance of building supply chain resilience. And in this segment, I will share some examples of how the ILSTC has helped to achieve this. When the pandemic broke out in 2020, it led to the closure of ports along the Yangtze River, which heavily disrupted supply chains between China and the world. During this time, the ILSTC remained resilient and demonstrated its potential as a reliable and secure alternative connectivity route that was crucial in facilitating the continuous flow of essential goods between China and Southeast Asia. The ILSTC, which is connected to the China-Euro Railway, also provides as an alternative transportation route between ASEAN and EU, vis-a-vis the traditional route of via the Suez Canal and the Cape of Good Hope. There has also been close to a 30 to 40% surge in the China-Euro rail cargo due to shipping delays and certainly its relatively lower cost. Over the past few months, we have also seen and received more inquiries and interest to find out more on the China-Euro Rail Express. As the ILSTC network continues to expand beyond its existing coverage to more cities within China, the first intermodal freight train to Xi'an was launched in early February, where 20 containers were successfully railed from Qingzhou to Xi'an. I hope PSA's sharing on the ILSTC today was informative and meaningful for you. We look forward to hearing from you, so please do not hesitate to reach out to us should you have any further queries. Thank you.
Thank you, Aloysius. Thank you, Jingfei. Personally, I really like the deep voice of Aloysius, how steady pace his sharing is, because it seems to assure us that he really knows what he's talking about. You know, like very confident that this solution definitely can work. In fact, I just want to also share that this solution is not a new solution that we have only come up with in, let's say, the past year. In fact, I fondly recall in 2017 when I actually took a road trip with Enterprise Singapore, some of our Enterprise Singapore colleagues, to Chongqing to really try to scan the landscape and see what kind of opportunities are available for our commercial entities here. And then we brought those feedbacks back and of course started laying out the operational execution from there. So like what Aloysius mentioned, today, very established solution, close to 5,000 trains, I note that down, that have actually been launched just in 2021. So it's really a solution, an intermodal solution that can prove to improve your supply chain diversification and resilience. Okay, so right now we are moving on to the Q&A segment. We are quite on time. Yeah, with me on the Q&A panel, besides myself, would of course be Chengdu from Enterprise Singapore and Aloysius from our PSA China Cargo Solutions team. Right. I do see quite a lot of enthusiastic responses. Let me just pull up the chat group in terms of the Q&A. Okay, there are varied questions, those spanning from more high-level strategic questions to the more technical details one, like including what type of products can be shipped. So maybe I'll try to go not so much in sequence, but more from high-level strategic questions down to the more technicalities of the solutioning. The first question that I see here, PSA is known globally as a port operator. Why did PSA venture into this space of cargo solutions beyond ports? How do you view your relationship with the various stakeholders in the supply chain? Not sure who this is, comes from an anonymous poster, but really very thank you to you for posting this question, because it's actually quite a common question that we get when we network with our customers. So in terms of my personal perspective, I'll speak from PSA's perspective, right? And then of course, Aloysius later can weigh in as well. PSA, in terms of our group as a terminal operator, in terms of our group portfolio, we handle last year more than 91 million TEUs for our global throughput. And that's actually close to 1/7 of the world's container throughput. In terms of just PSA Singapore alone, which is our flagship terminal, 37 million TEUs, and that's equivalent to 1/10 of the world's transshipment cargo. So we really see ourselves as a very critical player in the flow of trades. With our global footprint at various strategic locations throughout the world, this also means that we really have the responsibility to ensure trade and cargo flows really connect on critical nodes in the supply chain. So in the past, when we were just a terminal operator, our customer base were the shipping lines. No doubt those partnerships have been very fruitful, but we do realize that in order to extract more value for the supply chain stakeholders, we need to venture deeper into conversations with other supply chain adjacency stakeholders as well, including cargo owners and logistics service providers. Once we understand the pain points better, then that's where we can move into spaces beyond the port to help this wider set of customers. How do we view the relationship? It's really more of collaboration, collaborative spirit. Because for us, we truly believe that there is no one single orchestration player or logistics service provider or shipping line or cargo owner that can fully orchestrate all logistics on their own. We live in a very, very connected world today. global trade in order to flow needs a lot of collaboration. So for us, we welcome partners into our space, and we will also willingly go into our partner space to try and see what kind of collaboration, meaningful partnerships we can orchestrate so that we really bring the end value to the end customers who are like the cargo owners, manufacturers, shippers, etc. Okay, now on to our next question. Let me see. Okay, what are the potential opportunities to connect West China versus Southeast Asia via cross-transportation border, especially via railway operation? I take this question to mean if there are opportunities for, let's say, PSA Cargo Solutions to help connect cargo flows from Southeast Asia to and from West China via rail means, as in RAIL rail means. Of course, there is. I think just now in Jingfei's presentation, she briefly shared that for PSA Cargo Solutions, we are not just present in Singapore. For Southeast Asia, we are also present in a few other keynotes, for example, Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam. We do have cargo solutions reps that are on the ground, running the operations, scanning the landscape, that can actually help us to look for successful partnerships with local logistics service providers to effect your cargo flows. So for example, we have helped customers do cross-border trucking or rail into China from Vietnam to China and then all the way into Europe as well. Thailand is also possible. And of course, our presence in terms of cargo solutions is not just in Southeast Asia, but also in our global nodes as well, in Europe, in Americas, in India subcontinent. So let's say if you have solution needs that transcend borders from, let's say, an export port in Saudi Arabia coming to Singapore and then going upwards into China, and you feel that maybe ILSTC could be a valuable option, or maybe not just ILSTC, you know, like you want to take an intermodal solution, sea rail all the way from China into Europe, it's possible. Feel free to connect with us offline as well. Okay. With the increasing proven technological, I'm now on to the third question, sorry. With the increasing proven technological prowess of China and its capability to connect to the World Economic Network, what are the main gaps in expertise that Chinese companies, authorities are expecting Singaporean companies to help fill? On this note, maybe I think Qingzhou, you can share from more government holistic perspective, and then I can also come in to share perspectives from PSA as a commercial operator.
Thanks, Jingfei. Sorry, Karen. Thanks, Karen. Yeah. Maybe I'll come from 2 or 3 different angles. I think the first angle, I think if those of us who are following the news, you might know that despite COVID, our leaders from both Singapore and China are still having very engaging dialogues together. And 2 of the common themes that have really come out in recent dialogues are the ability and the interest to collaborate on green economy and digital economy. So I think along these lines, this gives us a signal that the Chinese side still looks to us for opportunities and learning in adopting Singapore solutions, Singapore capabilities, and working together in green and digital. So I think that's the strategic view of that. Now, down to then understanding the customer and then what we can make sense of, right, given these broad strokes. For me, for instance, if I were to apply it to the CCI ILSTC, for instance, I would think that perhaps a shipper or their customer expect them to be greener, right? So even if I'm a Chinese port or even if I'm a Chinese, distributor, I need to show that my supply chain is green, right? So therefore, if I'm based in Chongqing, I need to show that I'm a green supply chain, I'm a digital supply chain. Perhaps I still need to work with a very capable partner such as PSA that can bring me both the green and digital logistics solutions. So there's one angle I can think of. Now, one more angle I can think of is that as the government, we also try to provide platforms and opportunities to access market, right, in special ways. So for instance, within Chongqing, through our government-to-government engagements, we do have a special mechanism known as the Joint Innovation Development Fund, JIDF. And this is more for collaborating between Chinese companies and Singapore companies on the digital innovation front. So we also try to forge that kind of partnerships and opportunities. So I would say in summary, green and digital, perhaps still areas whereby we are regarded as areas whereby the Chinese companies need to look up to seek solutions or work with. And also we have different ways of working together, for instance, through the JIDF model I just talked about. Hopefully that answers the question, and over back to you, Karen.
Thanks, Chengdu. I think it's really very comprehensive perspectives. I think you mentioned digital innovation. In today's world where we talk about connectivity, after all, World Economic Flows is about connectivity, and digital flows is of course one of the key themes that we are looking at. But of course, I know right now we have a lot of focus on digitalization because COVID has really accelerated that uptake in terms of digitalization. And really from my personal perspective, that's also where a lot of Chinese companies are technologically more advanced in that we can learn from. The other thing that I would also like to mention is that when we talk about flows, cargo flows, trade flows, let's not also forget the physical orchestration. And I think that's where PSA as a commercial entity, as a global port operator, as a global supply chain orchestrator can help to fill that gap. Because when you talk about connecting flows from nodes to networks, nodes to nodes, right? Cargoes need to get in and out from China. No doubt, we have deep belief in the capabilities of the Chinese ports, but not all Chinese ports are directly also linked to all other ports in the world. We have the very advanced, mature ports that are like in Shanghai, Ningbo. We also have other more developing ports that are increasingly catching up, for example, like the smaller ports. And these smaller ports will also need to connect to larger transshipment hubs like Singapore in order to have that wider outreach to the rest of the world. Over the years, we have been building up our connectivity in terms of shipping services connected to PSA Singapore from various parts of the world. And it's really with the vision of helping regional markets to connect, expand their outreach to global destinations. So I think that's really one key strength that companies, not just Chinese companies, throughout the world, exporters, importers can try to leverage PSA Singapore's expertise on. Okay, moving on. Okay, let me see. The ILSTC sounds like there are many touch points. How does PSA ensure a smooth transition across the various modes of transportation? Okay, yes, indeed, there are many touch points. It could be different for exporters, importers who are quite used to the barging mode via the Yangtze River because we have a sea rail interfacing. And I think just now I also saw a question from our friend in PLG whether the sea box and the train box can it be transferable. Okay, so the thing here is in terms of technicality, your sea box, as in the carrier box, can go all the way from your port of loading. Let's say if it comes through Singapore and then it goes up to Qingzhou and then loaded onto the rail in Chongqing. The carrier box can actually be carried all the way, sea rail intermodal solution, all the way to Chongqing. And then once it's collected by the consignee, cargo and stuff, it can be returned to the depot of the carriers at Chongqing itself. Okay, so you don't actually need to transfer box to box cargo from box to box. Of course, if you have some trans-loading needs, for example, if your cargo needs repacking in Qingzhou, then yes, that's the possibility of it being transferred onto a rail box so that your carrier box can be returned earlier, because we know nowadays carriers usually would like their equipment to be returned earlier. Okay, but as for the touch points, do not worry, because PSA would be the one-stop solutions provider that's orchestrating the end-to-end solution from Singapore to Qingzhou upwards to Chongqing. You can actually, in very layman terms, see us like a 4PL. So we will actually orchestrate all the logistics. We will be doing the freight management. We will be also having control tower visibility for all your shipment milestones. For example, like when the vessel has reached Singapore, when the container is loaded, when the vessel has reached Qingzhou, when the container has been discharged, when customs has been cleared, etc. So this visibility will be available on our global supply chain platform, Calista, that allows you to really understand the milestone at which your shipment is undergoing. So don't worry about the smooth transition. I think we have already had many successful shipments that have gone through in 2021. And we will, our customers will be more than happy to also share with some of you all here that the transition, the handshake is really quite seamless. Okay. Barging through the Yangtze River seems cheaper. This is another question. How does ILSTC prove to be better? Yes, so in today's context, or rather not just in today's context, throughout a lot of supply chain management, theories, philosophies, or even in actual day management, day-to-day management, cost management is always a very key thought in supply chain managers' minds. But I think what we want to do here is to encourage our customers and potential customers not just to look at it from a apple to apple kind of cost to cost comparison, like sea freight is cheaper and then rail freight is more expensive. In fact, you do have to take a total logistics cost perspective. What does that mean? Because for ILSTC, it has been proven to have faster transit time versus barging by Yangtze River. I think Chengdu just now mentioned that the transit time is actually like half or reduced by 1/3. So in terms of that lower transit time, what you are looking at is also actually lower inventory management costs as well. Easier release of your working capital for other productive users of the resources, right? And then of course, when you have that one-stop solutioning or visibility or control tower monitoring by PSA, the possibility of exceptions are actually reduced. So possibility of exceptions reduced means that maybe unexpected costs will also be reduced. So then in that whole aspect, whether or not the total cost then would be cheaper, if I can use the word, than your current operations, which goes through barging, but sometimes, subject to dam maintenance, and then the barge rate actually goes up and down, peaks and downs, not so much certainty. That is something that you may have to bring back internally to discuss, because I think everybody's supply chain management differs from company to company. Okay. Does PSA have a similar intermodal solution in other parts of the world? Yes, we do. I have already mentioned just now that we have cargo solutions reps in all over the world. Like, for example, in India, the rail links actually run directly inside our Mumbai terminal. So the intermodal solution is also available as well, right? Okay. I still want to focus a bit more on ILSTC. I know Aloysius has answered a few questions on whether the train linking Qingzhou to Chongqing can carry chemicals, etc. So maybe Aloysius, I can bring you online. You can just also share verbally with the attendees here in case they are not looking at the chat box and your replies.
Yeah, maybe let me just add on a little bit on the question whereby the logistics costs between transportation via the Yangtze River vis-a-vis the ILSTC. Personally, I think the ILSTC is one of the more competitive choice in terms of transit time, while inland waterway transport is most competitive when it comes to cost. But I personally believe that it's a balance between cargo value and transit time. While the ILSTC may have a higher solution pricing compared to Yangtze River, cargo earners may opt for a shorter transit time in the form of the ILSTC for higher value cargo. Yeah, so that's something that perhaps I would like to add on as well. As to Raymond's question, can train box and sea box be shared? Yeah, like what Karen mentioned earlier, sea box can be loaded onto the rail from Qingzhou to Chongqing, for instance. There is no need to switch box, but again, it really depends on the arrangements that you have with the shipping lines. For instance, empty containers to be returned back to Qingzhou, for example, then you might want to arrange for the transfer of your cargo to switch box, right, to a rail container. Yeah, so it pretty much depends, and this can be arranged, not a problem. Yeah. As for dangerous chemicals, it really depends on what kind of chemicals. I would assume that these chemicals are dangerous goods. So at this point in time, rail transportation does not allow for the carriage of dangerous goods. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I think you are really the expert to go to when we are talking about the actual solution on the ground. Okay, I'm staring at this question here with the admit or maybe with the start of the tensions in terms of the Ukraine crisis. Will it affect the ILSTC route? Is there any restriction on rail? I think that's really a valid concern. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm sorry, am I back online? I understand that for the past 5 minutes, I've been talking to myself. Okay, I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm back online. Thanks for having me back online, right? I was giving a response to this question. With the tensions in terms of the Ukraine crisis, will it affect the ILSTC routing? Is there any restriction on rail? Yeah, so right now, no known restrictions or impact yet, because according to our colleagues on the ground, Ukraine is so far not the primary gateway for China-Europe trains. So the respective Chinese rail platform operators on the ground have made similar announcements that there are no known impact. Geopolitical tensions, we are not at liberty to really share more on our perspectives here. But of course, we do know that there are no immediate sanctions that are adopted by China on Russia yet. Yeah, so let's say if you're interested in the solutioning, you can discuss with us offline, and then of course we will make sure that the solutioning would be independent of the geopolitical tensions to the best of our ability. Okay.
Karen, yeah, maybe let me just quickly add on a bit. Okay, the primary gateway into EU, it's via the Russia-Belarus route, right? Ukraine is a secondary gateway into Europe via the China-Euro rail freight. However, the bulk of the traffic passing through Russia is via Belarus, and the operations is normal at the moment, right? Because it's located about close to 2,000 kilometers away from the conflict area. Yeah.
Thanks for the assurance, Aloysius. Okay, a few questions on Calista itself. These few questions, I'll just read them out. Does Calista have a demo environment for familiarization and testing? Carriers and LSP can also provide visibility on their platform. How is Calista different? Any other Calista question under answered? Okay, yeah, so how is Calista different from the other, let's say, visibility platforms that are provided by carriers and logistics service providers? I think the first thing we need to note is that for Calista, that's the supply chain platform that we are co-developing with our partner, Global In-Trade Services or GETS. It seeks to integrate 3 flows of trade within a single platform. The physical flow of the cargo, which are the shipment milestones, the documentation flow. So you don't just get to know that, oh, the SI has been submitted, the booking has been confirmed. There are actually compliance capabilities on the platform where you can make use of to really submit your trade compliance documentation, and where the information can be, for example, auto-populated from an export port to an import port, so that kind of reduces the human errors. Yeah, so the compliance capability is also integrated into Calista. The third is financing flows. So actually for some smaller, medium enterprises who are looking to also seek sources of trade financing, there is actually a module in Calista that can allow them to do so as well. So trade financing, documentation, regulatory and compliance flows, and physical cargo flow in terms of freight booking, freight management can all be accessible to Calista itself. And that is what we seek to create in terms of convenience and values for our customers. Now, just a little bit more in terms of the visibility. Yes, of course, Calista is also connected to carriers, to logistics service providers. And some of our visibility events are also in collaboration with carriers as well, because, for example, we do need to know like where the vessel is in terms of ocean transit. But what Calista can also seek to integrate into the visibility are the port milestones, which I think in our conversations with the customers, like cargo owners, usually is quite a black hole, if I can use the phrase. Like they don't really know what is happening to the cargo inside the port, whether it has been discharged from the vessel, or what time it's supposed to be get out. So we try to bridge that gap between a port event and a carrier-specific event and put them all into Calista. Okay, so that's how we try to achieve a more seamless and enhanced control tower monitoring for our customers. Does Calista have a demo environment? Yes. If you're interested to understand how Calista works in terms of end-to-end visibility solutioning, do get in touch with us. We're still leaving the QR code on screen here because we thought some customers will want to take some time to think over whether you want to connect with us, but really please feel free to do so. Okay, moving on to next question. From Carlos. Good afternoon. How does a JV with Duisburg come into the ILSTC cargo solutions? Okay, so this boat is in Europe, is in Germany, of course. So for ILSTC solution, of course, the shorter leg would be from, let's say, Singapore to Qingzhou and then to Chongqing, and it stops there because you really just want to connect to the customers in Chongqing. Or let's say Singapore is a transshipment hub, so you come from Middle East to Singapore to Qingzhou to Chongqing. Okay, but if you are looking at extension of that ILSTC routing into Europe, then this boat can come into play because they are also one of our partners on at the local landscape where we can collaborate on more logistical capabilities and possibilities, for example, like last mile logistics. Okay, so this is the model that PSA Cargo Solutions is working on. We don't go out there and build a lot of, acquire a lot of warehouses in our own, a lot of hard assets coming into our ownership. We try to build partnerships and leverage on like-minded partners who can also offer us with their competencies and capabilities to extend the first mile, last mile transshipment needs, etc. for our customers. Okay. Okay, what is PSA's vision for sustainability? With the impending increase in carbon tax pricing in Singapore, will the cost be passed on to the customers? Okay, that's really moving away from ILSTC, because I think in our slides, we also talked about how ILSTC is probably a more sustainable solution than versus inland trucking and all that. But this really talks about our higher ideals for sustainability in terms of PSA. So for us, PSA, we take a very long-term approach to managing supply chain evolutions. So for example, I can give some illustrations. Some years back, we saw some hard truths of cargo flow changing from long-haul shoring and flows of raw materials to end destination to near shoring because of various geopolitical tensions. We also saw trends in vertical integration happening. We saw technology enabling and disrupting. So that's really why it prompted us to move into cargo solutions so that we can better learn in terms of the supply chain intricacies and extract the value for a wider base of supply chain stakeholders. Yeah, so right now we are seeing that, okay, so technology being enabling and disrupting has become a new norm. What are some of the new supply chain trends that are evolving? Climate change, sustainability. It's not just going to be some lofty ideal, it's actually a trend that's here to stay, because even in our day-to-day conversations, we hear a lot of customers that are coming to us to say that, oh, I also have sustainability as a corporate KPI, and the suppliers that I work with need to be able to have that same kind of mindset with regards to sustainability. So what kind of sustainable solutions does PSA have? So for us, sustainability is part and parcel of our operations philosophy, of our cargo solutions. It's not just about just greening our port infrastructure so that, you know, when we use our port and then there's lower emissions of carbon footprint. We also realize that a multitude of inefficiencies and misalignment that's happening along the many roads of supply chain because of the fragmented stakeholders, obviously, there is that sustainability impact as well, because inefficiencies will lead to wastages. And in terms, it also leads to wasted emissions. For example, like if a food supply chain is not optimized, then obviously from farm to shelf, there's a lot of wastages in between. And where PSA Cargo Solutions can come in is to help orchestrate the supply flows in such a seamless manner that it actually eliminates or reduces some of these inefficiencies. And in a way, it also helps to reduce your Scope 3 emissions as well. Now, in terms of pricing, I think we want to take a more holistic approach because it's not just about, oh, I having increased cost that I pass on to my customer. I think in order for the whole community, whether it's in Singapore or global, to be able to drive sustainability as a continued focus in supply chain management, then everybody needs to have a stake in it. Okay, so for PSA Cargo Solutions, we firmly believe that there are some costs that we will have to absorb. For example, like greening our port infrastructure. Yeah, that's like a capex that we have undertaken on our own. But let's say in terms of some other cargo solutions that you and I are looking at to optimize the supply chain, but maybe that cost of the solution could be a lot higher, then we will also have to share in terms of the cost and productivity gains. So it's not just a straightforward like, oh, if I have the carbon tax, then I'll pass the cost to you. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Let me see. I think we have kind of covered everything. Okay, there are some questions in the answered group that says, can we have sharing of the presentation? Yes, but we won't be doing like a mass sharing to everybody after this. So if you are really interested, please feel free to get in touch with us offline and we can share with you the information that you require. So for PSA, you can scan this QR code. I think for ESG Enterprise Singapore site, previously they have also shared with you the various parties that you can reach out to. Okay. If not, I think we are pretty much on time. Can I just take stock whether there are any last minute burning questions that anyone out there have? No? Okay. If not, then thank you so much for your time this Monday afternoon. We still have 70 participants on board. Thank you for staying with us all the way. We look forward to more sharing sessions in future. You can connect with us via QR code, via email on our LinkedIn page, PSA Cargo Solutions as well. This solution is not the only solution that we can offer to help you diversify, increase resilience for your supply chains. So we would love to really connect with you and understand how we can help you. Okay. With that, yeah, thank you to everyone. Stay safe, take care. That's the most important. We'll hear from you somehow offline. Thanks to Chengdu, thanks to Chongqing, if you're still online. Thanks to Aloysius, thanks to
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.